Welcome everyone to Mom Talk. I am your host, Crystal Galladay. I am the author of How to Get a College Degree for Free and also the Fun Finder for Education. Now, I started this platform, Mom Talk, to provide an atmosphere for us mothers to get together to talk about topics that we may talk about in little silos, or some things we're thinking about that we don't know the answer to and may think we're doing things on our own, but we're not. Somebody has been through something that we're going through. So I wanted to create that community so we're not in this by ourselves. But this is just not for moms. This is for women that are interested in motherhood and then those that support us as well. Like I had a speaker who had a husband come, so these are topics that for our community, in addition to, I want to let you know this is a safe zone. What happens here, is for us, we're talking and this is our outlet. So ask your questions, okay? Because I want you to be able to get the most out of what we're here to do today. So I have this every month. I try to do it the fourth Wednesday of the month, but with the holidays and last month me having my nonprofit for Never Underestimate Knowledge, which is my nonprofit, I had a scholarship fundraiser. Didn't do it last month, and this month I didn't want to have a Christmas week. And plus, our speaker has a special date coming up this month too. So had to work around our schedules, but normally it's going to be the fourth Wednesday of every month, and I'm bringing a different expert to you every month. So definitely reply to my email or put it in the comments if there's another topic you want to talk about, or if you have someone in mind to speak. So this month, I have to come to you with a heavy hitter because guess what? This is our 1-year anniversary for Mom Talk. Yes, I started in December 2019, and now it's December 2020. So I'm super happy about that. I wore my little shimmery jacket for 2 reasons. Because me and the speaker have something in common. We're sorority sisters. And my prior speaking engagement, the person who asked me to come, she's my sorority sister as well. So I had to represent, give you a little shimmer for the 1 year and have a little meaning too, because I do things with meaning. So thank you for the congratulations messages. So I have here someone very special. She's near and dear to my heart, but she is doing a lot of things in the community. We have Tracy Powell here. She was ranked number 1 as a realtor in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In addition, she's the vice president and director of residential sales at Mosaic Brokerage Group. And she's been in the real estate game for years. So, and actually, I want to say it's probably in her blood because her dad is in the real estate too. So we're in for a treat. And I know I said her titles, but there's so much more to Tracy. So I'm going to let her open up her mic and her talk to you a little bit more, because Tracy, let us know, who are you? And then also, whatever else you wanted to share so that the community can get a chance to get to know you.
Great. That was an amazing introduction. Thank you for that. And I just thought about that. That's probably the first time I've ever heard you ever introduce me anywhere. I feel like I'm always the one that has to do the introduction, but that's an inside joke. But anyway. But hello, ladies. I am so happy to be here and to be able to talk to you all and to bring whatever value I can to you guys, just to help expand your minds a little bit and give you as much education and information as possible. As Crystal said, I am a legacy real estate person. So I am a professional that has been involved in real estate about 18 years. My family has been in real estate a little over 40 years or so. And I have literally done everything from first time buyers, investors, property management, estate sales, trust sales, 1031 exchanges, all kinds of things that whatever you can think up, I've probably at least touched it twice. But I say all of that to say, this platform is really, really special to me because not only because of Crystal, because I would do whatever she asked me to do and come on the platform and help with whatever I can, because service is in our blood. But women really need to be empowered to understand the power of real estate, as well as mothers. because we have the power to pass on our legacy. And a lot of times we're the ones that go out to find the information and source it and seek it out. And then we turn around and really, really in bite-sized morsels, explain it to the family. That's kind of our job. So when you're doing that, I like to be as forthright with information as possible to make sure that any and all questions are covered, as well as details about different things that you might want to get involved in. I am currently the vice president and director of residential sales for a company called Mosaic Brokerage in Philadelphia. It's a newly formed brokerage, but it is minority owned, and it is minority owned for a development company that is their partnership slash umbrella ownership, that's been in existence for about 12 years. If you Googled them, I would probably say they're responsible for somewhere close to like $4 billion worth of development in Philadelphia. They just got named the major partner developer in the entire Navy Yard project, which was like a $2.6 billion project by itself. Literally resurfacing, refacing hotels, commercial spaces, condos, all of that stuff. That's what they do, is develop. And then they bring it down to the brokerage, and then we create relationships with the community to be able to bring our people to buy the properties, to own and lease the business spaces, to also be able to work in the hotels. Like, it's a real ecosystem of just diversity and just reaching back. So that's entirely my jam. I'm all the way here for that. That's what I love to do, and I love to be a part of. So that company definitely, stole my heart, and that's where I am for right now.
I love that. And I know you mentioned, you used to be on the other end, like introducing someone else, right? Be it me or someone else. But let me tell you, I can take my show on the road. I can introduce you wherever you need me.
Listen, say the word, and I will definitely give you the job.
Well, thank you. So it's Mosaic Brokerage Group.
Yes.
And is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So as you see, Tracy had mentioned a lot of different things about her experience. And I remember even back her schooling me when we were in college, her helping me with my first property, and she's in Philly. I got relocated out here to the DMV area. So I got my first property in Maryland. So just know that she's a wealth of knowledge, even if you're not in Philly. So that's one of the reasons why she's here. And the fact that we all may be in different phases, right? We have our people that are interested more in the first time home buyer phase, who is here more for gathering information or just doing that first purchase, because I've seen a couple of properties in my neighborhood that's been on sale and people moving during this pandemic. So let's not sleep on the environment and also what's available. Then we have those who may have their property and are thinking about what else to do. Like I know my husband and I, we were thinking about refinancing. There's different options with that, and what are we going to do next with our property and stuff like that. And then there's those who are into real estate investment, be it that you're renting out the property, you want to rehab it, or different things of that nature. So Tracy, can you speak to the different groups, but like also let us know the climate that we're in, what is to potentially come, so that we can better understand what we should be doing for our particular situation, because I know everybody's situation is different.
Yep, perfect. Absolutely. So one of the things with the blanket conversation that I always will say is, and it's kind of on my t-shirt too, real estate is essential. It is always going to be there. Land is not being recreated anymore, and everyone has to have shelter. So it's something that you want to consider and make sure you understand that no matter what stage you are, it's always a good idea to buy property. When you are a first-time buyer, you have more control over where you live when you own it. And you also are in a space where you are now a part of the tax code. Because what people don't realize too is the wealthy are created in the tax code, and the tax code favors ownership. And one of the very, very specific ownership levels that it favors is real estate. So if you own property, there are certain deductions you can take, there are certain things that you can write off because of your ownership, depending on how many you own, that also can transition into that conversation. So, and right now in this climate, the interest rates are hovering around like a 2.75, definitely below 3%. You're still in programs that are allowing you to put down for a first timer anywhere between 3 to 3.5%. So you could potentially get into a property cheaper than what it would cost you to rent right now. So that's something from an economic and a budget standpoint that I want people to pay attention to when they're thinking about buying their first home. Now, when I start talking about people who own property and they're trying to decide what to do with it, whether it's refinance, whether it's, do some rehab or sell it or that kind of thing, that puts you kind of into maybe an investment property situation, or if you're just looking at your current home and deciding what you want to do for refinance. So what I tell people is for a refinance for your purchase, for your property, if what you pay monthly is going to be less than $100 a month, if you refinance, it's worth it. So
you said if you're going to refinance and it's less, so you're saving. Okay, got it.
Yes. So saving $100 a month is worth it during the life of your new loan. Now, if it's not really $100, if it's like $75, but you're changing the conversation from a 30-year to a 15-year, and you could potentially pay it off sooner, and you might have college to pay for the kids, or daycare that might be coming up because you got another kid that's getting ready to be daycare age, or you're thinking of planning for a family. You want to make sure that you have all of those budgeting conversations about all of your financial options for your property that makes sense for the next phase that you're going to, or what you're going to be looking at. Most owners and real estate owners are tax planners, and they plan at least 2 to 3 years in advance. Like, you kind of know what you're going to be doing with this property for at least the next 2 years, because you got to kind of tell your CPA, like, I need this deduction for the next 2 years. What do I need to do to keep it? So that is something that I would say is a decent conversation for that level. Now, when we start talking about investment and people who are either looking to buy something for investment, or if they're looking to decide whether or not they want to offload a property that they own or their family owns, or the market is so hot, we could probably get some money for it. I agree. There is a specific formula that you want to do and use with your real estate professional to make sure that it makes sense for you and your family to offload it, or the option is to update it and keep it. Because again, the rental market is still hot. Some people aren't ready to buy, but if you are ready to buy, personally, I always say buy. But if you're not ready, you can also gain as a landlord to rent to someone else in a property that you might have low overhead in. When I say overhead, I mean the maintenance may be low, the mortgage may be low. You may not owe any money on this property, and it's just sitting there doing nothing, and it's non-performing. So now you could possibly make it a performing asset by updating the kitchen and bathroom, throw some paint and put some carpet down, and now all of a sudden it's possibly rent ready, Section 8, or some of these other government programs that need to house people that could start to give you income. So there's a lot of ways to kind of skin this real estate cat. And it's really just more up to what you feel comfortable with and what options are actually available to you in your situation. And if you have a specific one that you're looking for, or one that you're like, you know what, I heard that I could flip a property and buy it cheap, rehab it, and sell it. So yes, you can. The question is a lot of details. So where, how much do you want to buy it for? what's the market for resale, and what do the other properties that have sold for the price range you're trying to get, what do they have inside of theirs that you need to do to yours to get that number? And how much does that cost to do it to the house that you're looking at? So it's a lot of details and very, very formulated conversations, but it's not rocket science. There are people doing this, that are part-time, receptionists, teachers. I got investors that I do business with that are from all walks of life. And it's really just being disciplined, understanding what you're dealing with, understanding what your threshold is to be able to handle certain things, and getting a budget together and putting your money together and just pulling the trigger.
So there were two things I want to tap in on. So there was a situation with moving, right? From one property to the next. And you have to think about it. Sometimes when going into like an investment property, like I believe it's more money. Like if you're just like, I want to have an investment property, right? Is that correct? You have to put more money up as an investor opposed to moving into the property. So I posed to this person that was thinking about moving and then trying to decide what they do with their property to keep it. Because how often are you just gonna have a property that you can already make money from it because it's already appreciated and you don't have to put any money down on it. So that person is renting out that property now, and all they had to do is put another a coat of paint on it, and just managing it. And when you manage a property, it could be having a real estate company or a management company do it, or it could be doing it yourself. And then you have to think about business too. If you have your own business, having a property is a write-off. So I see there's a question in the chat, so I definitely want to make sure everyone here live gets their best bang for the buck. And the question is, I'm interested in purchasing an investment property in Philly. So can you talk about that industry in Philly? Because I do know you know the inside scoop.
Absolutely. I mean, Philly is booming. Some of the dynamics that I have with the conversation about Philly that I have very frequently is it is the big cheap city. So the reason I say that is because we are in between New York and DC. And when you think about the pricing for New York and DC, they do not compare to the purchase cost and the rental cost for pricing for Philadelphia. So a lot of people have been flocking from New York and DC to Philly because they know that the prices are substantially easier to obtain than some of the pricing that has been in either one of those cities. Philly is really, really a city of little neighborhoods. And in the neighborhoods, there's a lot of different dynamics on pricing. Like we have, if anybody knows anything about Philly, like you technically can break it up into north, south, and west Philly. And then there's some other places that are in the east area, but we don't call it East Philly. It's just kind of good. But when you break those up, there's so many little neighborhoods in North Philadelphia. And North Philadelphia, maybe I'm going to say 20 years ago or so, was probably not a place that most people touched or bought property on a regular basis. But in some parts of North Philly, there are $2 to $3 million properties right now. And a lot of that is due to we talk about gentrification. I don't like to use that word only because there's a lot of dynamics that go into development. And there are some people who don't develop with, I want to say, community mindset. And then there are some people who do develop with community mindset. So it really, really can be a full uplifting of an entire zip code if folks just kind of work together. So when I say that there's parts of North Philly that have raised to $2 million, there's areas called like Northern Liberties. Northern Liberties has been a oversaturated, very expensive area probably for the last 8-9 years. And that's only because one developer came in and literally turned a warehouse and all of the dilapidated properties around it from like a 6-block radius into a huge, attractive, high-end condo space with apartments and a gathering space with super, super trendy restaurants on the main floor as a commercial space. So you could potentially eat and play where you live. And that's really all it takes to kind of change the dynamic of a neighborhood. But there are properties in areas that are still coming up that are going to be looking like Northern Liberties very, very soon. So a lot of people are paying attention to South Philly. A lot of people are paying attention to Grace Ferry and Point Breeze. And people are also paying attention a little bit further north. Not really the Northeast. It's a little bit south of the Northeast. It's an area called Kensington. 20 years ago, you couldn't catch people in Kensington. It was very dilapidated, very desolate, and there was a lot of drug activity. Now, DC and New York and a bunch of other people have come into the area, and they've turned it into almost a playground for new development. And that's another area that probably in the next 3 to 5 years is going to turn into probably not Northern Liberties level, but it's going to be nice enough that you probably will have $500,000 to $600,000 properties that are selling regularly. There's a few that are up there now that are for sale, that are new construction, that are in like the 4s in the area. But I would say Philadelphia is probably a really, really good place to invest at this time, because I don't believe the numbers are going to go down anymore.
I will say this, my husband and I even considered buying a property in Philadelphia. So Tracy, you may be in contact, because it's like, that's my second place I called home. I went to undergrad there and I have my family there, like Tracy and, Elise and Lace and everybody. So definitely I would say if you're interested in Philly and just anything, real estate, Tracy's your person, because if she doesn't have the answer, I'm quite sure she has someone in her network that has the answer. And she gave you the inside scoop on different areas. So you definitely want to jot that down when you go through the replay and look into these locations, because as we're seeing, environments and neighborhoods are being turned around all around us. Like, I'm from New York. Like, Harlem today is not the Harlem back in the 80s and 90s when I used to go down there every Saturday for my grandmother's house on 133rd between 7th and 8th. Not the same. So definitely invest and do what you can to have your legacy, because that dash between your two dates, you want it to mean something, and then also have that generational wealth. So another question is, I'm interested in investment property and a flip, preferably Philly or the surrounding suburbs of Philly. How hard is it to gain funding? And does one need astronomical sums of cash on hand to buy, or is funding attained with good credit? That's a really good 2-part question. Yeah. So Tracy, that's you.
It's very in-depth, and I'm glad you asked. But no, so there's a lot of pieces to that conversation. Tell people for the very first time that you do this, the question also is, do you own your own home currently? Because if you do, now the leverage conversation for an investment for something like a flip is a little bit easier for a lender. Now, remember this, the lender's job is to sell money, to make money off of the money that they sell. So they can determine whether or not your risk factor makes sense for them, and whether or not, okay, home equity line of credit, okay, no problem. They determine whether or not your risk factor is reasonable enough for their investors to loan you money. So when you're going into conversations about, I want to do an investment, I want to do a flip, and I need money, you want to look as good on paper to a lender with showing that you are responsible, that you maintain another mortgage that you pay on time because you own property, you have income, you have savings, and if you need a co-signer or someone else is a partner that's going to go in with you, they also have a similar background or financial resume. So now when you're doing that, you're prepping yourself for the conversation for asking for money. Lenders don't have a problem with flippers. They do finance them. Some lenders will do, let's say, 90% of the purchase and 100% of the rehab. So you would technically only have to put 10% down on the property that you're purchasing, but whatever number you come up with for the rehab, they'll finance it all. But the conversation is that entire dollar amount is all the mortgage that you're going to owe. Now, the details are stuff you want to get into and you want to read the fine print, because some conversations are certain programs, especially some in Philly that are kind of popular, will say we'll do 10% down on the purchase, 100% of the finance, 100% of the rehab, but we won't make you pay your first payment until you start your first draw. So let me explain what that means. You buy a house, let's say the house is $50,000. And then you realize in the neighborhood that it's going for, that let's say the rehab neighborhood is going for 200,000. You know, you might have to put $100,000 into that $50,000 house in order to make it $200,000 level. Okay. These are rare numbers, but they're not far off for certain values in that neighborhood, because, you know, a lot of people who are marketing this stuff really, really know their numbers. So they'll keep their margins very tight. But in the conversation, your total mortgage amount would be about $140,000. So you would be putting up, well, actually a little less than that, but it would be more, you're financing the 150, but you're only taking 10% of the 50. It would be like, what, $5,000 that you would need to put up. So it would be $145,000 that you would need to finance. Most lenders will do that and will allow you to do that, so you can finance it in that space. The other conversation is there are lenders who will, and I recommend this for people who, if they own their own home, another conversation you may want to do is create an LLC. If you create an LLC, if you do it the right way with the proper operating agreements and details and everything else, and please make sure you have your CPAs and your attorneys and all that stuff, look over stuff before you jump into a real estate investment discussion, because all of that stuff has to be pulled together. But when you have those documents, a lender can turn around and say, we'll finance the LLC and we'll separate it from your personal Social Security number to insulate you for this investment. So that way, anything goes wrong, any issues happen, it's on the LLC. Excuse me. And that's the name and the first set of Googleable and public record information that's only available for that property. They can't attach it to your personal name or whatever and pull all of that. Okay. So operating agreement is something easy. You definitely can pull that off of the internet and just look for a generic operating agreement. I would pull it off, fill it out, and then have an attorney or somebody look it over it, somebody who's in real estate to do that. But I will caution you that I am not one of those people who preaches pulling cash out of the house that I own to risk on a real estate investment. And that's only because the house that you live in is very precious. And if something ever goes wrong, we don't ever want you to be homeless. Now, LLC purchases allow you to also get what's also called business credit. Business credit is money that can also be used in the same token of how you were using a home equity line of credit. You can get a business line of credit. And if you use a business line of credit, then you can use that as your down payment for the LLC purchase. And it all kind of works in tandem. But this is stuff that you definitely want to get your documents, all that stuff in place before you jump into a situation like this. It's not something like you want to buy or find the property and then go create the LLC. A bank will literally rip you apart on interest rates and everything else if they know that you didn't do it prior to. So it's a lot of It's a lot of different banks for business credit and LLCs. One that I can probably say is an easy bank that I can just throw out there that I know you could probably research or reach out to is KeyBank. KeyBank is another good one for LLCs, and they're very friendly to first timers. There's a lot more banks involved, but that would take a lot longer of a consultation and a conversation than what's going on tonight. But that's a good discussion. I hope I answered most of your questions.
And I will say this, that one of you lucky individuals that are joining today are going to get a consultation with Tracy. So that's the beauty of being live at Mom Talk, because usually the speakers have a free offer or product or something like that. I know there was a question about NACA, which is a program that helps people who want to buy property. I will say this, and I mentioned it in the comments, from personal experience with somebody I know that went through it. It's a long process, very tedious. They did get a property, and it just took longer. And then actually the amount that they paid for interest and the overall loan was cheaper than what they would have done potentially doing it another route. So in my opinion, and Tracy's more of the expert, and if you could speak to NACA after I finish, Tracy, is it worth it? It just depends on your personal situation, in my opinion, for time-wise, for finances. And as you are listening to Tracy, purchasing property is not something like, oh, tomorrow I'm just going to buy the house across the street. It's a process that you have to plan for, prepare for. And then when you're in the process of buying a home, don't do nothing. Barely breathe. Because you don't want to change whatever the situation is that you submitted to when you close. Because I know some people get buck wild and like, oh, I'm getting this property, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then it don't work out for closing because you messed up your financial situation. So when you're ready, be ready and plan out, because it is a financial commitment. But when you work with people like Tracy and other experts in the field and know what you're doing and know your budget, then you can make educated decisions. So Tracy, I'm gonna pass it over to you for NACA and then whatever other comments.
Okay. Yeah. So I agree with what Crystal said, and that's absolutely true, and it's true across the country. NACA is a program that is buyer first, and their job is to try to educate you and get you as least amount of money out of pocket as possible, as well as an interest rate that's helpful. The concern that people don't realize is it is, I believe, funded through their state, and the program is government run or at least assisted, and they don't really have a good handle on what's happening in the market. So I say all of that to say is the process is long, it's drawn out. There are certain checkpoints in purchasing a property that you have to be ready for, with documentation and possibly money. And NACA, a lot of times in a market that's moving as fast as it is in real estate right now, with all of these interest rates, they can't keep up. So what I tell people is that NACA isn't bad. You should go through the program and learn and all of those kind of things, but you're probably better served with buying your property the regular way and then refinance via NACA, because NACA does refinancing.
I didn't know that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And you can, their interest rates and their programs and all of those things are still helpful to homeowners via refinancing. But then you own the property and you're living in it, so you don't care how long they take. But it's just the front end of it for NACA that you will lose a home that you love because you're waiting on them to just get a counselor assigned to you, or get a pre-approval, or to get an approval on the property that you sent them an agreement of sale for months ago. Like, it's just, it's insane. And I'm telling you, you're going to drive yourself crazy thinking that you got a good deal or a property that you fall in love with, and you can't get it because they're just slow. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that market, it's moving. I know for the house across the street, they redid it, There's about 30 families that came. And I'm sure it was a bidding war. I speak to the realtors in the area and go look at the properties too. So if you're in a community, it doesn't hurt to go to open houses, get to know what's going on in your neighborhood so that you also know about your property and what's going on. And then you can also let the people that you know this property's on sale, because there's one down the block that I let one of my school family moms know about it. So definitely utilize your network. And I see another question in here. Is it better to buy land and build or fix it up? Wait, is it better to buy land and build or fix up an existing property?
So that is more for a risk tolerance conversation. I don't feel like one strategy is better than the other. It's more about your expertise as well. And remember, when you're thinking of a building up from the ground up, you're going to have to get a developer involved to do that. So you're going to have to understand the interworkings of a house to begin with, to be able to understand what the value is or the cost is associated with what that developer is telling you is going to cost you to build up. Now, new construction is always new construction. The code is always the code wherever you are for license and inspection or whatever it's called in your area. So newer is good. The concern more so I tell people is, if you've never done any flips or never built a house or taken out the entire guts of a house and put them back in, you're not going to understand why development makes more sense and why there's certain things that are done in development that aren't done in flipping. So I don't know if I would say it's better, but I will say that most developers have flipped a house before.
So it definitely goes back to your analysis of your threshold, your finances, your time, all of that stuff. But that's definitely a good question. And it also depends on the area too.
Yep. So I see the question about hard money loans. So I don't have a problem with hard money loans. I'm from the school of debt and leverage is good as long as it's secured by something that is income producing or something that is an end to a means. So most of my guys and most of my projects that I do rehabs for, I'll use hard money. And for the people who don't understand what hard money is it's not a traditional bank. It's a private lender, maybe a hedge fund, or maybe a group of investors that pull their money together and they want to sell their money to people and they have terms. So hard money typically could be 11 or 12%, and it's for a year or 6 months. But they would give you what we were talking about, 100% of the rehab money, but make you put down 10% on the purchase. And they'll give you those terms. And a lot of times they don't ask for a lot of details in the background. Like if you're using an LLC, they just want to see the operating agreement, the EIN number, and any of your corporate certificate of
incorporation.
Yep. They want to see those documents and just a background on your credit, and that's it. So a lot of times you can get into these deals easy, but you got to be careful with the fine print all the time. That's the stuff you want to map out with a spreadsheet, financial planner, whoever. If I take this money, when I get done to pay it back, how much do I owe monthly to this company to do this project? Now, a lot of times you can literally leverage other things and use business lines of credit to pay the monthly payment. And all of this should be encompassed in your entire project. So if you have the same conversation we had before, let's say that 50,000 purchase with the $100,000 rehab, but the sale price at the end of it is somewhere around about $200,000. When you go to do all of those things, you want to make sure that you have cash, credit, or some sort of money that is the grease in between all of these transitions. Hard money will do rehabs and draws. So what it means is they'll say, we'll give you 100,000, but the first 25, we want your demo done. We want everything roughed out. We want your framing done, and we want your electrical junction boxes all put in. So if you've ever seen a house that literally just has sticks in the framing and it's cleaned out and you'll see the little blue boxes, that's the phase. And that's what I'm talking about for phase one, where the bank will say, we will only give you $25,000 to get to this phase. And then when you're done that, we'll send somebody out, evaluate it, and then we'll give you $25,000 for the next phase. But typically you have to do the phases first and then you'll get the money. So it's when you're doing flips and you're using hard money, you just got to pay attention to the details and the numbers and make sure that you know what you're getting into. I don't tell people that it's a bad thing, because it's definitely helpful, because most people don't have $150,000 to go rehab in houses. But all of this stuff, especially with your LLC, a lot of times is a write-off. A lot of times the depreciation that you do is a write-off. A lot of times the interest rates and the ARPs that you're doing, the APRs that you're doing for this is all a write-off. So it's encompassed in your business to do the research and the work and actually work within the confines of the numbers. But I mean, I use hard money a lot. So I just know that I can't hold it longer than 6 months because it's too expensive.
Well, thank you for breaking down hard money, because I didn't know what that was. I thought it was just like, I don't know, this money, like, so I'm learning something new every day, and not ashamed of that, because I'm a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
This conversation is really good, and I love the dialogue that we're having in the chat. I think we addressed pretty much everything that's there. So I want to kind of close out, but then also give you a time for questions and answers. So Tracy, how can people get in contact with you? And then what do you have next that's happening in your world?
Okay. Typically I tell people I'm on social media all the time, not only because of my clients, but because of the marketing that I have to do for my brokerage. But Instagram, I am Real Estate Tracy with an I. Facebook, I'm just Tracy with an I, last name Powell. You can easily find me, and that's probably the best place to reach me. I do have a website too, which is realestatetracy.com. Feel free to peruse, reach out to me. Every platform has some sort of link that will allow you to reach out to me if you need to get in touch with me, or if you want to set some sort of consultation or what have you. So those are available. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Elise.
Yeah, thank you.
But coming up next, I'm doing a bunch of 2021 is going to be so robust. There's going to be so many things that are happening, but I will post a lot of that stuff on my social media to let folks know what I'm doing. I do have a couple more speaking engagements and symposiums, and I am going to be talking to people about how to buy property from the sheriff's sale and what kind of pitfalls and things that they'll have to watch out for when you're buying the properties from your local sheriff's sale. So that will be posted. Depending on your location, it may or may not resonate with the different conversations for that, but the details on the process are typically all the same state by state. And my counterpart, who I'm going to be working with, is an actual attorney who used to run the sheriff's sale in Philadelphia. So we'll have some robust information for you on that one.
Love that. And I definitely follow you. And I feel like you're the closer. Like every week you're closing on some property with some client or doing something. And I like to see the different houses in a rehab. So I'm somebody that follows you and has been looking and liking and all that other stuff. And I see you. I see you doing the hard work and getting it done. And that number one spot that you obtained and claimed, you definitely deserved it and you earned it.
Thank
so congratulations.
I appreciate you. I'm telling you, when you're doing these properties and you watching what some of these developers and some of these rehabbers are doing, you'd be amazed what brick, mortar, tile, and colors can really do to a space to change it into a completely different world. Like it's nuts.
So there was one more question in here. Any recommendations for real estate attorneys and CPAs in Philly? If you want to shout them out live, you can. If you want to put it in the chat, I'll leave that up to you. But other people may want to know. So you just
yeah. So, and now that I think about it, I forgot to say, every Sunday at 7 p.m., I do a live podcast called the Black Wealth Project. And I do have an actual CPA on the team with us, and we also have an attorney on the team with us as well. I can put the info in the chat, and their Instagram name is the Black Wealth Project also, so you can follow them as well for what our new topic is going to be. But it's literally every Sunday at 7 p.m. We talk all things wealth, all things real estate, all things that affect why and how we can or can't obtain wealth.
And I remember seeing an interview with you and one or two of the gentlemen from that group.
Yeah.
So you all are doing great things. And I love to see us thriving in our particular area of expertise. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes. So I'm going to wrap it up, but don't leave, because when you're here live, you get something special if you're the lucky person. One, you get your questions answered, but then also you are in the drawing live for whatever our guest speaker is offering to the group. Okay. So Tracy, the #1 real estate expert in Philly and has a wealth of knowledge, is offering a free consultation with her for one of you lucky people. Yellow's my favorite color. If you're just wondering why I have a yellow hat, I put everybody's name in here as they were entering. I am not looking, and I'm going to share with you who the person is. It is Carmen. It's backwards, but that's Carmen. Remember, I was writing.
Yay, I'm here, Carmen.
So Carmen, I am going to connect you. Actually, I'm going to provide you with the information privately in the chat, so you have it. So it's on you to schedule with Tracy for your consultation.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Tracy.
Wow.
And then
I'm whispering because my son is here. He's trying to go to sleep. But...
Okay. No problem.
Totally. I have a 5-year-old. I'm hoping he sleep. My king in kindergarten needs to be sleeping and not trying to hang out with mama. So we'll see.
He's 1 year old, and he's like nosy.
Enjoy every phase. Congratulations. So the groups are in here. The Mosaic Brokerage Group, which Tracy is the vice president and director there, and the Black Wealth Project is on Instagram. So I do want to say you're connected now to Mom Talk. So this is going to happen the 4th Wednesday of every month. Holiday time may change a little bit next November, December, because I will still be around then. If you have any topics that you want to hear, definitely send me an email, because you received the email about it, or put it in the comments. If you're seeing a replay or something, or some particular place, you can find me at crystalgalladay.com. On my website, you have all of the social media sites that you connect with me on. And if you want to be a speaker here, if you have something to share, we are a community of very powerful people. I welcome you to let me know, because there are some slots open. And Tracy, I want to thank you for coming, and everyone for coming in and providing their knowledge, their questions to this wealthy conversation. Because we're building wealth. And what does your shirt say? Real estate is essential. So Tracy, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And everybody connect with Tracy, because she knows the stuff inside and out. And if she can't help you, she knows somebody who can. And we, like our community, we have so many people with different skills. We need to utilize our neighbors. So I know I had a conversation with someone else in here. We may connect on something else, a project we're going to work together on. So it's just, we see other people doing it and their community thriving, and even our male counterparts. So ladies, let's do it. You took the first step by being here for Mom Talk. And remember, you're welcome back to come again, because Mom Talk is for moms, those interested in motherhood, and those that support us. And I'm so happy that you were here. And I wish you all peace and blessings. And just make today and the rest of your days a wonderful day.
Thank you. Good night.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good night, guys.